we have the big cat, Ernie Ladd.
Yes.
Man. I don't know. Do people remember the AFL?
I hope they do after this episode. Yeah. But yeah, he played for. What a tremendous athlete. And that's kind of when we started talking about some of these guys that ended up not having a championship. He was one of those guys that was champion anywhere he went anyway. He meant business. Ernie Ladd meant business, and he drew big business wherever he went, rather. But, you know, he was at Grambling, University, I guess, and he was down there playing basketball maybe, and a football coach saw him and said, you know, be out on the field tomorrow. And he was there for a basketball scholarship, and then so he ends up going into the AFC. Like you said, does anyone remember the AFC? He played fucking professional football. And then back in those days, those guys didn't have these big contracts, and they did stuff in the off season, from driving a truck to selling cars to delivering whiskey or whatever. I know Art Donovan, that played for the Colts, done that. But Ernie Ladd, you know, I guess he started wrestling some in the off season. And next thing you know, he's a huge fucking wrestling star, and he was a star, and he was a champion. He carried titles and things like that from territory to territory and working. And to be as big and as strong and as agile, he was the big cat, man, Ernie Ladd. He could talk, had a good body. I know his knees gave out eventually, but don't they on all of us? No whether you wrestle or play football, eventually your fucking knees are shot anyway. But nonetheless, man, the guy had a great mind. I heard he done great business everywhere we went.
Yes, I demand time. I take time. Let me tell you something. You had Dirty Rose that you're talking about, what a big contract he had. I noticed you never had me. I made more money than any athlete around the country. I had one of the biggest contracts ever in football. I just negotiated the most fantastic contracts here from my Samoans right here on television. And you're always talking about Dusty Rose. When they talk about the big money makers, they talk about Ernie Ladd. When they talk about people doing super fantastic things, you're talking about Ernie Ladd. So why can you bring me out here and say, Mr. Ladd, what type of deals are you working out for the Samoans? I'm making plenty of money. I'm doing a fantastic job for myself and a lot of other people, and I'm taking the Samoans right along with it. So what are you trying to tell me?
Dean Malenko told me, and this is no lie, I never will forget this story, of all the people Dean got to meet growing up, Dean told me one time, and this has been years ago, folks, but Dean and I was sitting around talking, bullshit around, and he said out of nowhere, he said, Bobby, he said, you know who one of the nicest guys to me when I was a young boy was? That was always so nice to me, and it was Ernie Ladd. And so I never forgot that. I never got the privilege of meeting Ernie Ladd. I've never heard anything bad about him because he's a little bit before my time, obviously. I was a fan of his work. I loved when he was eventually show up on TBS and then the angle of Jay Strombo and shove the feathers in his mouth and all that. But I never will forget what Dean told me. He said he was sitting there with ice packs on his knees after a match, and he was in pain, and he was still taking the time to be nice to a young Dean wasn't even in business then. He was just a young kid there to matches with his dad. And so to me, that leaves an impression on me that outside the ring, Ernie must have been well hell of a champion as well if you took the time to hang out and talk to a young kid, be kind to him, you know? So hats off, Ernie Ladd, man. You could have been a champion anywhere you went.
Yeah, that's I didn't get to see a lot of what he'd done, but every story you hear about him, it's amazing, like just the level of paying attention to his own business. You know, coming out, walking around the ring, walking out of the building.
Like that. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, just they're always great stories. Or him picking on guys like King Kong Bundy when they weren't kind of holding their shit together.
Yeah,
just sounded like an amazing man. His career does speak for itself, but again, not a major title, and lots of titles, but none of the ones we're considering.